Hi everybody, it's Sarah Simoni again. This is Simoni Presents Transformational Holy Week. How are you doing today? This is not yet into the heart and meat of the Triduum, or which is the fancy word for Holy Thursday, Good Friday, and Easter Vigil coming up, the big hitters. But how is it going so far this week? I don't know about you, but I've already got a bit of a nervous energy, trying to think of what we're going to eat. And, the kids are excited. They're trying to create all these little plays and skits at home. I have to say I'm quite impressed by their level of creativity. And here I am, I'm journeying with you again. Here's another reflection for the day. It's short, it's simple, and it's clear. This is my goal. I have an E equals MC squared moment to share with you. And if you don't know what I mean by that, I'll explain. Albert Einstein was ridiculously intelligent. Let's just put it that way. I think most of you would know that. But what happened is that he actually found an equation to describe one of the most complex relationships in the created universe that had yet stumped all physicists. And what it did is it related energy. How do you find out the amount of energy a substance possesses? And he actually found a solution that is so ridiculously simple for the most complex reality. So the solution, his equation is E, energy, equals mc squared. So m being the mass and c squared being the speed of light squared. It was just ridiculously simple that teeny tiny little equation could actually even be correct to define one of the most complex realities in the known universe. And it worked. It seemed to work, right? And there's all sorts of nuance to that, and I won't go into it, but I had an E equals MC squared moment, and I have to share, from my own upbringing, I was, raised to work hard, right? And so I was raised to both play hard and work hard. I grew up on a farm in Alberta, and we had animals and horses. We had 3 pet goats that we dressed up and we took in the local parade. It was really great. Honestly, we had a ton of fun. We played hard and we worked hard. And I came to really enjoy the affirmation I received from my intellectual and my academic abilities. And I think it created a culture for myself to really kind of strive for that. And without knowing it, I put a lot of my purpose and dignity into how well I did and the accolades that I would receive from my academic achievements. And so I went on to university, the University of Alberta, and I studied biology, and I thought I might even go into genetics. I just loved it. I just found it so fascinating, the created world, and how beautiful and complex and integrated, and just I could see God there. And I had a profound experience of the Lord when I was young in grade 7. So I had all of this marriage of science and seeing how God had created. It was really, I can't look back and say that there was anything wrong, other than that I had this culture developing with me that I didn't see, and that it was that my purpose was hinged upon my abilities. And so what happened is then I got married and to my wonderful husband, Nick Simoni, and we decided right away, even prior to getting married, that I would stay at home with the kids. We really wanted to provide that extreme, I would say, honor and gift to our children, that they would have a parent at home to cherish and treasure and invest all of their living moments to make sure that they had a stable and loving home to be a part of. And so I gave up my teaching career. I forgot to mention I got an education degree as well. And so I taught for 3 years and then I quit. I went on what I call a perma leave. And so I would go and I would sub maybe once a week when I wasn't pregnant or nursing, which after 5 children, that's a decade of being pregnant and nursing. So I would sub every other year for a few years, and then it just became too difficult to manage. So I stayed at home, and I felt, to be honest, I felt stripped. I felt like the Lord, in his gentle, loving way, was stripping me of where I'd placed my dignity. As I suddenly was stripped of the career, what I call career comforts. When you have a career and you're going out and you're part of a team, you have these kind of accolades, this this support of other people, and you're being seen, you're being thanked, you're being, you're part of something. Whereas when you're at home, you are the team. You're a CEO, whether you like it or not. And there's no professional development, and there's no, rewards for good behavior or like high turnout. Like, you are a CEO and you don't know what you're doing. And there's obvious beauty there. But it had stripped me in a way that I hadn't foreseen. I even had set up for failure. I really struggled with my dignity and my purpose. And I didn't really have an instant answer until a few years ago I started a mums group, and I co-lead it with several mums now in Cochrane. And last year we decided to do the Discovery Faith Study that Catholic Christian Outreach has put out, and it's the first in a series of 5. You can see on the back there's 5. And the discovery is essentially trying to discover what is the meaning and purpose in our life. And I believe everyone would benefit from going through it, because what they do is in the 5th lesson, they encourage everyone to go through the Ultimate Relationship book, which Nick mentioned in his video. And to be honest, this first question, I didn't think I had any problem answering. I believed that my purpose and my meaning and my dignity and what life was all about, I had a deep faith already in Jesus. But honestly, the second page hit me like a brick wall. It was like I was Einstein sitting, and after years and years of trying to intellectually work out what is life about, and how does my career and how do my gifts and talents play into this new vocation to being a mother and a wife. And I feel like the Lord kind of hit me with this page in a loving but gentle but firm, clear way. Is we are made for relationships. It was my equals mc2 moment, because the most complex reality is this question of our purpose and our meaning. Why does the universe exist? But why do I exist? That's a big question. That's a complex question. And Einstein, just like Einstein discovered a simple little equation that defined it all, this is the answer. This one word was the answer. It was the ridiculously simple answer to the most complex question a person can ask. We were created for relationship. And if you sit with that, and I'm going to invite you to sit with that after this little presentation, how are your relationships? And what are your relationships? And how does that define who you are? When I was in a career, my relationships in my career, they gave me that sense of dignity and ownership and partnership. But when that was stripped away, it really called into question, where does my dignity come from? And who am I at the core? If I sat here and did nothing all day, would I still have a purpose in life, And I felt like the Lord was just hitting me with this little page, this little truth, this little E=mc² formula to define, Sarah, you are made for relationship with me. And that will give your life all the meaning and purpose. It doesn't matter if you go on to be the CEO of a major company. It doesn't matter if you go on to be the Prime Minister of Canada. It doesn't matter what you do. You could stay at home and be a mom and love your children. It doesn't matter exactly what you do. It's exactly who I am, and that gives you purpose. And so I really invite you to consider one invitation that I feel is really, really important before I leave, and that is to really consider the life of Saint Fotina. Now, this is the name that I bumped into for her. You would know her as the Samaritan woman at the well. But in some Christian traditions, in the Eastern traditions, they give her a name, PH, Fotina. And they say that she was like a beginning apostle, because she was the first one to really see for real that Jesus was the Messiah, and then go and proclaim it to her whole town. And she wasn't worthy. She had nothing on her resume other than successive, unsuccessful marriages. She had several, and And you see how this story unfolds. And St. Fotina is there at an inopportune time of the day because she was avoiding the other women. She was an outcast even within the outcasts. Samaritans were outcasts, but she was an outcast of the outcasts. And Jesus sits there and he engages with her and he offers her water that will give her eternal life. So she's come for water and he says, I've got something better. I've got something that actually you're really thirsting for, even without knowing. And this is our invitation to really reflect as we're heading into Holy Week. What is your deepest thirst? When you sit in the quiet, and now we've been stripped of a lot right now. We're at home in COVID, we're stuck in our houses. Maybe you've lost your job. Maybe you've been stripped of some of your career comforts. Maybe you've been stripped of, just even the comfort of your own routine. You had a good thing going and now it's all been rearranged. Maybe you're like yesterday, I mentioned that couple planning their marriage and now they have to completely rewrite all of their plans. And this is the question, is that the Lord really wants us to be completely satisfied. He actually has water so that we won't thirst. So the question is, what are you really thirsting for? And I'm going to suggest it's for relationship, intimately to be known and intimately to know why you're here. And that's really when we sit in the quiet, we can ask ourselves that question. Lord, do you really know me? Do you really care? And that's really what happened with her is Saint Fotina was at the well and she said, well, I'm waiting for the Messiah. And he says, well, that's me. And she said, he said, well, why don't you go get your husband and tell him? And she said, well, I don't have a husband. And he says, well, I know, because I know you. And so this is part of our reflection as we leave here is, what are the bits of yourself that you kind of wish Jesus didn't know, that God didn't know? And how is it that river of living water can wash through you and know even those bits of you and transform that into a person who is full, who is known, who is loved, who has purpose, no matter what you do, no matter where you're at, no matter what job you have or don't have, no matter how many people love you or not, no matter how many mistakes you've made, the Lord knows you intimately. And so, number one, the reflection today is that you were made for relationship and that you will not find rest and you will thirst until you find a relationship with the one who has water that will satisfy forever in this life and the next. And so I invite you to pray and to sit with the Lord and to allow him to pervade your body as though he were that rushing, cleansing water, and for him to know and for you to surrender all the parts of you that you don't even really want him to know, because he knows it already and he accepts you and he wants to give you, in exchange for all of your ugly bits, he wants to exchange complete refreshment and renewal and eternal life. And so I thank you for listening, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. God bless.